Welcome to Confessions of a Leader. I'm Ian Pascoe, the CEO and Managing Partner of Grant Thornton. In this podcast, I sit down with some of Thailand's most accomplished business leaders to uncover their personal leadership journeys, their highs, their challenges, and the lessons they've learned along the way. Today, I'm excited to welcome my guest, Khun Archawat Chareonsilp, known to many as Khun Ohm. With over 25 years of experience spanning corporate leadership and entrepreneurial ventures, Khun Ohm has held executive roles at global giants like Standard Chartered, Coca-Cola and Philip Morris. Since 2018, he co-founded and invested in more than 10 ventures with a strong focus on biotech, renewable energy and e-commerce. Now Khun Ohm advises multinational corporations on strategic investments in the region, leveraging his deep knowledge of the business and political landscapes. Khun Ohm.
Yes.
Thank you. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You've had an interesting life and your career has taken you from Washington, D.C. to Southeast Asia, from corporate environment, corporate leadership to entrepreneurship. Some major changes. What values do you think has led these changes in your life and has guided you through this journey?
Right. I think we are going very deep, very fast here, right? So
jump head first right in.
The first value that came to mind is integrity. It's been introduced to me by my father, emphasized throughout my life, and then reinforced oftentimes. But I think looking back, right, I think it's one value that make me who I am today. Right? It's helped me guide me through when I have to make difficult decisions. Right? Things are clear to me what is right, what is wrong. So when you are in a gray area, it helps you to decide, which one is which way is the right way. At the same time, with that kind of, mindset, you kind of like shield yourself, from bad situation, when you have a good judgment because of you have integrity. So I think not only that it's helped me, get through life, making important decisions, but it's also a protection for me as well.
You've been a leader in some, I guess, significant brand names, global multinational companies. How's that journey? How did that come about? And was that something that was always you felt was within you to be part of of a global enterprise? Certainly, the early part.
Right. No, never dream of it. Growing up, I think I grew up in a average, family, personally with below average potential. if you ask my English teacher, she said, I don't see much going on with you. I think that you're gonna end up in two places, either prison or jail. Right? That's how much my English
obviously got on well with your English teacher.
Yeah, my English teacher have that much trust in me, and I was in high school. I didn't think much of that. I actually quite subscribed to her perspective because I didn't have anything to show, right? But life has a funny ways, to turn. So she was right that I don't have much to show. My grade was so poor, I was unable to pass the admission examination to get to university in Thailand. So for reason of bad behavior more than anything else, my parents decided to send me to the United States.
Right.
Right.
And how did you find that? Obviously, major sort of upheaval, what change in your life?
Yeah. I'm not fond of Thai education system. The reason that I didn't do well in school because after junior high, I decided that education is not important, it's useless. So I stopped learning because really they don't teach me anything that I'm interested in, right? But after I moved to the US, first, tuition fee is way more expensive. I cannot afford to fail like I failed in Thailand.
Yes.
So I actually have to pay attention, right? But when I start paying attention, I start to realize that, hey, there are stuff that you can learn that you actually like, and this might be something of value to you in your life. So that was a little bit of a turnaround story, from a high school kid who didn't think very highly of himself, who's agree with his English teacher that he's probably going to end up in prison or jail, pick one, right? Into rebuilding his confidence that he actually can learn something, and there are something that he learned that he think he can make use of that in his career, and able to make good of himself.
Do you think that's the particular teacher, or you seem to be a little, maybe disparaging is too strong a word, of the Thai education system? Does it? And we talk a lot in business about the education system. Is that system setting people up to take this country to where it needs to get to?
I'm not sure what is the higher education system now, but back in the day, 35, 40 years ago, it wasn't. It was a system that teach you to memorize, teach you to be obedient. They don't teach you to think. They don't teach you to express, your opinion or your feelings. So they practically, drain you of any creativity that you may have. I still remember in mathematics, right? There was a math question that as a math homework that I completed, sent it back with the right answer, but I took a different way to arrive at the right numbers, and then I was scored as wrong, right? So that is a Thai system for you. They don't allow you to really flex, either way. You actually have to do exactly what they want you to do. Otherwise, you're going to end up in prison or jail.
It's quite extreme.
It was, but it wasn't just the system. I was not a good student myself either, so I cannot just blame them, right? As soon as I realized that this is not important, I just stopped learning. I never take my glasses to class, and I sit all the way in the back for 3 years. I didn't see anything.
So, other than the concern about costing money in the US system, what was different, and how did that set you up to be the leader that you are today?
I don't have smart answer to that question. Really, I just don't want to upset my mother.
Right.
I don't want my mother to don't feel good about me. I want her to be proud of me. So I think that
I'm sure she'd be that.
I'm pretty sure. But with that, right? You actually strengthen yourself and actually try to find out what you really like, what you can be good at, and try to pursue it. And then I realized that I can actually do well. I ended up graduated with I'm a development economist by degree. I graduated from the George Washington Universities for my bachelor, and the American University for my master. And then I was able to hang out in Washington D.C. for a while because there's during that time, if you understand the context, that was right around 1997, 1998. Thailand was about to enter the largest financial crisis we ever had. There's no point for me to come home. There won't be a job for me to come home to. Right? So I decided to stay in DC and have a job, all kind of anything that make money and legal, right? Semi-legal. I'm not supposed to work actually. So I started off with, cleaning dishes, cleaning people's houses, waiting table, bartending. And I think the pivot came with bartending because my bar is actually on Capitol Hill, in Washington, D.C. So you have a lot of politician lobbyists came in at the bar. And one night I met one lobbyist who came in and he was complaining about, his personal assistant request to take a 3 weeks holiday and he couldn't function without. So I said, I have 2 degrees in economics for $10 an hour. Take me out of this hellhole. I'll do anything for you.
Yeah. One of those sliding door moments.
A sliding door moment indeed. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Perhaps a few of us have got a lot to thank bars for in our life, for some of the people we've met there.
But I guess if there's anything that I like to recognize, is that had I not tried, to stay in the U.S., right, and try to earn income by being, in the restaurant or in the bar, right, moment like this wouldn't come. It's a sliding door moment, but you actually have to put yourself there. Right. So when that moment comes, you can take full advantage of it. So when Bob Brooks, the boss, walked into the bar and said that he needs help, I was there to raise my hand. Right? So
they had that within you to sort of be bold and say, "Hey, I'm here."
Yeah, I want to get out of this bar.
But so indirectly though, Tom Yum Goong has sort of built your life. That's your life is what it is today because of Tom Yum Goong. Because if you I recall you telling me before that Tom Yum Goong obviously caused financial hardship to a lot of people, and exchange rate going from 25 to nigh on 60.
Yeah.
As students, we had to go and make our own way.
Yeah.
Which took you to that bar.
You either pack up and come home and not having a degree, or you need to find way to make an end meet, and I chose the later. Mm-hmm. While most of my friends actually chose to pack up and you came home, and a lot of those guys they are doing well, but they're still without degree because they never actually went back. And finished college.
Okay, so you met Bob Brooks?
Yeah, that's my boss.
And where did that take you?
So Bob hired me to work for him at the Evergreen Associates, which is a government consulting, right? It's your Washington D.C. representative. So we work for a client named Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma, Indian tribes. Mm-hmm. If you know anything about the regulatory landscape in the U.S. dealing with the Native American, you have Native American live on reservation, so yes. The law could not reach them, or the Choctaw live on the land called trust land, where the government entrusts that land with them. But within that trust land, they have to provide their own hospital, school, so on and so forth, right? And they don't have enough they need to have way of earning income in order to finance all that. Otherwise, they become the state's burden.
Yes.
So Choctaws are very entrepreneurial, right? They run a business called Bingo Hall.
Oh, right.
Bingo Hall is a mini version of a full-blown casino, mm-hmm. right? So we want to make. So they were our clients. We helping them, making sure that they were able to operate that business and able to take care of themselves. So that's how I start working on regulatory issues, attending meetings with congressmen, senators, attending some hearings. Sometimes it's televised early in the morning. My Bob would watch me on TV live, C-SPAN. I would come back and Bob would say, "Hey, Ohm, how's the hearing?" I said, "Great, Bob." I said, "You lie. I saw you fell asleep. You were live on TV." But I think I was very fortunate because opportunity like that doesn't come by to a person like myself easily, right? So once again, that sliding door moment was really, really building something for me.
And that took you on to some major global names: Philip Morris, Standard Chartered, Coca-Cola. And the leadership roles you took in those organisations, was there a pivotal moment in your time within that environment that really shaped your leadership style, do you think?
I think there's no specific time that shaped not only my leadership style but me as a person. I see my life as a continuous stream of events and opportunities and challenges. So little by little, I became who I am sitting across from you now. But if you want to talk about the context of business leadership, right? I think my earlier career, was good. Let me not name of the company. I was 20-something years old. Halfway through that company, I get sent, on the overseas assignment, right? So become an expat, living in Hong Kong, on the top floor, a penthouse for the apartment, being a lowly manager. So it was good. But then, things doesn't turn out the way I wanted it to. So I became upset, and not happy, with what I do. So there's a place back in the day, there's still a smoking room, right? So now that my kids will know I smoke, anyway. so I would hang out in that smoking with folks.
You didn't smoke in the smoking rooms. You were just there talking to people.
Exactly. Secondhand smoking only. But I hung out with the group of people who also didn't like working for the company.
Right.
And we just go, secondhand smoking and talk about, what is not good about working here. It had huge impact on my mindset, toward the company, toward my career. It went to become so negative, right? then I realized that, you cannot live with this kind of mentalities, with this, perspective. It's not healthy. It's not gonna get your career anywhere, right? So I already know that I'm not gonna be in that company for much longer. So I decide, to resign and leave. And that decision is not just to find a new job. That decision is about, I gotta get out of this environment and reinvent myself. I don't want to be this person who's pessimistic and upset all the time, right? I want to be somebody who's super optimistic, who's really have this can-do attitude, and who's really want to go for swing for the fence all the time. And again, I was fortunate, was able to start my new career with Coca-Cola, who is known throughout the world of having a brand that represents optimism, something that I was seeking, right? And I learned from the hard way that pessimism didn't take me anywhere. I want to be super optimistic. So I went into Coca-Cola with that kind of mindset. And I think when your values align with the value of the company and value of the brand, right, magic happened. That's how
Right.
I last 12 years at Coca-Cola, and was able to grow my career into a very senior leadership role.
Okay. So that's an interesting lesson. So being passionate.
Being passionate, but also do not allow yourself to, be in a negative place up in your head for too long, because that force will suck you in just like a black hole. Get out of it fast, and try to turn it around. Go somewhere positive. And I think that's a major keystone of my professional career. I was able to see opportunity in all kind of crises.
And did that flow through into the way you led people?
Yes. Leadership is a difficult craft, but I always try to be the so-called inspirational leaders. When I started, I was really, really bad at it. It's more like a daydreamer than anything else. But as I get older, as I have more experience, that's become better. And I realized that, it's a leadership styles that very relevant to, the work environment today and also in the future.
Was there any particular leader that you were working with prior to that helped shape you?
Right. Again, at Coca-Cola, I was very fortunate to have an opportunity to work for two extraordinary leaders of Coca-Cola, right? Manuel Arroyo, he's currently he is Chief Marketing Officer for Coca-Cola, company, and Jorge Garduno, who's Chief Customer and Commercial officers, right? So I have a chance to work with two extraordinary leaders of Coca-Cola companies, and they taught me, quite a bit, right? They first made me understand what is a culture of Coca-Cola, what is the value of Coca-Cola, and helped me deepen my alignment, with the culture and with the values, right? And then I wasn't hired to Coca-Cola at the leadership position. I was hired as a self-manager, right? I manage self, right? Mm-hmm. So, but it took me about 5 years before I start to get a position where I start leading people. When I first appointed into a role where I start leading the team, Jorge Garduno gave me a lesson. He called me in the first day after the promotion. He said, "Sit down, Khun Ohm. How's your first day doing?" I said, "Yeah, it was good." And he said he want to give me advice. Right? He said, "Do not try to be a leader today or any day. Just be yourself. Right? You have earned everything to be in this position. Just continue to be yourself and continue to lead the team, the way that you see best." I think that conversation is very meaningful because there's two things. One, authenticity was not a fashion word back then. Back then it's not a buzzword, but that was he was trying to teach me, right? And two, to become a leader, you have to make sure that you have your leadership value is aligned with your own value as well. So you cannot pretend that, I want to grow up to be a leader like Barack Obama when you don't know what his Barack Obama value system is, right? So that's what he's trying to tell me, right? That be yourself, be authentic, and build your own leadership styles. Right? And then later on, when I was appointed to become the head of the regional team, Manuel Arroyo also gave me a second lesson. He said, leadership is not a popular contest, right? Because I was suffering. I want to make sure that I'm liked and I'm loved, right, by my team. I want to be one of those bosses that everybody's loved, right? So he said, leadership is not a popular contest. You're not hired to be liked. You're hired to lead, right? So that taught me that, in a role like I had at the time, or any ship position I had at the time, your job is to really, really not thinking about yourself, or not even in any individual, right? To think of greater good, what is good for the company, what is good for the team, right? Regardless whether or not that decision will make you less popular or not. So it's taught me that, it's a higher calling, as a leader, you are being held, responsible for a lot of things. Whatever decision that you make, you should not have any personal, emotional attachment to it, and able to make the right calls all the time.
That's some interesting points come out of that. Sort of don't try and be a friend.
Yeah.
But if you're an authentic leader, it may well come anyway. Yeah. When you were talking about authentic leadership,
yeah,
I don't know. Richard Branson kept coming to mind. So he's probably changed the game when it came to leadership. He was broke all the rules, but he was just totally himself.
He found his mojo.
Yeah.
Right.
So you then went from multinationals, corporate life, to the world of entrepreneurship and startups.
Right.
That must have been a major decision to take. You must have mulled over that for quite a while. What was going through your mind when you were going through that decision process?
Right. Yep, you're right. I was 45. I have a wife and 2 kids. I have 2 cars, payment. I have mortgage. You don't make decisions like this lightly, right?
Sure.
So there were about 5 questions that I asked myself, and I told myself that if I can answer yes to all of these questions, I'm ready to jump, right? So the first question is, if you want to leave this, comfort zone, what are you going to do next, right? You don't want to leave, your corporate job because of boredom, right? So you have to have a plan what you want to do next. So if you can answer to that, tick. Secondly, the things that you are going to do, right? The market for it, is it big enough? It doesn't make sense for you to quit, your perfectly good corporate job to go into something niche that doesn't really sustain your lifestyles. Right? Number 3, in that market, who are your competitors, right? Can you compete, or even better, eventually dominate that market, right? You have to be sure that whatever you bring to the market, to the consumers, it will be competitive. And number 4, if everything that you planned fail, what is your plan B? You have to have a plan B. Having hope is not a strategy, right? Mm-hmm. And number 5, even if your plan B also fail, do you have cushion financially, to last for another year that allow you to buy time to figure out your next move? So I was able to answer yes to all these 5 questions. The next day I walked to my boss and I announced that, I'll be parting ways.
You've co-founded 10 ventures in this new life you're in, following the leadership in those things. What's inspired you to keep pursuing the new opportunities, and do you think that's come from the sort of the positivity you've got out of an optimism you got from Coke, and being authentic and being you? Because obviously that's something that you do. Is that what's driven you?
I found and co-found more than 10 companies since 2018. Not all of them are doing well. Some of them has gone under already. But what get me there is, after 10 years with Coca-Cola, right? It's almost like been there, done that kind of moment. You start questioning, why are you here kind of questions. Am I here just to circle my comfort zone, or am I learning and improving still, right? So during that time, I think 2017, 2018, that's when the startup world, the tech world was bustling, right? There's disruption everywhere. So I beginning to look at what I do during that time and what's happening outside of the company, and I was, shit, man, the grass is greener on the other side, right? So and then I was asking myself, if that's the case, the question that I have to answer myself is, am I willing to cross the fence, right? To leap and land on the other side, and the other side that I have very little knowledge of, right? But I think that the sense of curiosity in me, creativity in me, think that, looks like this is something that, worth me trading, stability and certainty for, right? The potential is great. So I left Coke in 2018 and right away, joined the company called Haba, which is the startup ecosystem builder. A lot of people think of Haba as a co-working space, but it's a place where all these, a wonderful startup young entrepreneur comes and try to build the business, right? So, at Haba, I learned a lot. I almost have to relearn everything, right? 1 minute you were, commanding meeting in boardroom. The next minute you find yourself, trying to pitch a business to a person half your age, making 20 cold calls a day, and most of those cold calls didn't get past the receptionist, right? So this is exactly what we were talking about earlier, that, my life is a stream of events and changes, right? This is my moment that, I have succeeded in corporate life. Time has come for me to reinvent, and I want to reinvent. So I have to learn, I have to unlearn, I have to relearn a lot of things, right? I never have to sell anything in my career, right? When you work for a big company, when you're hiring people, when you, acquiring external services, you buy.
Yes.
You just keep buying, right? But I have never have to actually sales anything. So from day one, I joined Haba as a chief strategy officer and also corporate innovation director. I have to build product, to sell into large organization, and I never sales anything in my life. I hit the ground running. It was a very good experience. I learned tricks and trades, and I was able to, for the 2 years that I worked there, from never have to, sell anything in my life. The revenue that I brought into the company, the first year was $2 million US. So as a second year, and then COVID hit.
Right.
So I have to say goodbye to Haba to save, the company, and I have to move into the next chapter of my life.
Okay, interesting. Most leaders I talk to love talking about their successes. You mentioned there was failures. Are you happy to talk about the failures and what you learned from that? Because
I'm happy to, because I don't define failure or success the traditional way.
Yes.
Right. I think like I said, life is a stream of events and a lot of things. To me, I don't believe in failure. I don't believe in success either. It's just stuff that comes and go. Right. I mean, if somebody were to say, if Khun Ohm, life is a success or a failure after I'm dead, yes, that time you can do that. But as long as I still live, I don't count, success or failure. But happy to talk about it. I think in the case of Haba, it was unfortunate because of COVID, right? And other underlining, incompetencies, of the executives of the company as well. Something that I have noticed, a year before, but I decided not to do anything about it because I felt that, I respect the company founders, right? And I feel that, this is not my company. I should not be too much in terms of having too much opinions. As long as I deliver, the values, I'm good. Again, that corporate mindset that I left in 2018 continue on even when I was an entrepreneur, yes. Right? That mindset is like this. I always feel that I have a boss. Whatever I want to do, I have to ask permission, right? That's came to me even in my day of Haba. But after the event at Haba, I realized that that was not something that I exercised properly. So from then on, no more permission seeking from anybody else, right? So that was a failure. I have a bunch of other failures along the ways, but nothing major.
Anything particularly you've learned from any failures outside of the hub? Just persistence.
Again, there's things that happening that I don't like or I'm not happy with. Not only that I found and co-found, I also invest, right, in startups, right? There's a few startups that I invested in that didn't go very well. I made bad decision. I made bad judgment. I lost money, right? But again, this is what invest in startup are about. It's a high risk kind of investment. So I lost some money, right? But it doesn't really. I didn't think much of it. I think it's part of the package. I recently exit, one company that I co-found 3 years ago. We make good money out of it. I still have a few other startups that I invested in that look like they're gonna go so well.
Good.
One of them I think will be my ticket out of poverty in a year or two.
Poverty? Particularly when you're in your later life, but certainly with Hubba, and you've been nurturing incubating new businesses. Is there anything that perhaps is in common with the businesses that you've seen come through your ecosystem that have been successful? Is there any common traits with the people that have been successful?
Yes. You have to be good at what you do, right? And I underline the word do, right? Because there's a lot of startups who are very good at what they say and really bad at execution. Right. The three startups actually that continue to do well, that I took notice of. One of them I was the first angel investor out of guilt. He came to I was his mentor, and he was working in a large corporation. And after the session, he said, "P.O.M., I decided, I'm gonna take the idea to work together. I'm gonna go quit my job and build this company." I said, "Please don't. I don't want to be held responsible." But he went anyway. But he's a quiet, confident, and capable and very experienced. These are the kind of people who actually understand business. A lot of time when we are talking about startup, their business, or investing in them, right? We get sidetracked into the limelight, the disruption, the new technology, so on and so forth, right? When you don't understand that, what's gonna make or break the business is not that. That is the first year of your business, but the longevity of your business is about your business acumen, right? Your commitment, your ability to make right decision. And those startups that fail lack all these qualities, right? Those startups that succeed, they have all these qualities.
I mean, we're very fortunate to have someone who has worked with multinationals, worked in various jurisdictions, but obviously home is Thailand. And a lot of what you were doing was advising those multinationals on their policies. With your experience in advising those multinationals, what leadership qualities do you think are really important when guiding businesses that are setting up or trying to build further their businesses in Thailand? Is there anything specific that is different, do you think?
Yeah, I think, to me, good leadership is good leadership, no matter where you are, startup or large organization. You need to first have a vision. Secondly, able to inspire the team around that vision. And thirdly, have high level of integrity, making sure that that whatever vision that you have doesn't hurt anyone. And fourth is, ability to almost quietly push your vision toward without, having to strangle, your team too much.
Yeah.
And I think that is fundamental leadership, that no matter you in startup or in large organization, you will do well if you are mastering all that, right? But taking this a little bit further, being an effective leader today and in the future require addition, to what we have just discussed, four things, right? Because I think, the world is moving really, really fast. We are standing at the intersection where, you have this unprecedented technological growth, right? We talk about, AI 300 times a day, and how fast that thing goes, and how it's gonna affect how we live and work. So we in this intersection where technology growth is very fast, but at the same time, the global challenges are also very large, right? I think to be a good leaders in the of today, to create futures, I think leaders need to be responsible, more responsible. Leader need to be able to create a well-balanced world where you can nurture technologies, where you can create ethical standards, and also where you can make sure that whatever you do have a positive impact on everyone, right? Making sure that is inclusive. I'm worried about leader who's really focused on driving output but not the outcome, right? Things can go really wrong really fast if leaders is driving the wrong vehicles, the wrong technology toward the wrong directions. But if you have a responsible leader who can put a well balance into nurturing technology and also being ethical, I think technology will actually unlock a lot of potential for humanities. So I think leader of the future will probably need to look deeper inside themselves and find their values, and making sure that you're not being a leader just for the sake of climbing corporate ladders, right? You are being a leader because whatever you decide can have impact on other people. You better make sure that those impacts are positive.
To come back to your purpose, knowing where you're going, having a purpose.
Having a purpose is important. Yes, having a purpose is very important. I talk to my clients a lot about purpose. Unfortunately, I think for large corporate bosses, purpose is wishy-washy concept, right? Something that you hired somebody expensively to draft, and then you talked about it every town hall, so on and so forth. But they fail to understand the power of purpose. How they can use that purpose as the glue to hold that organization together. In the trying time, that will be the only thing left, for the leader to hang on to take the team out of dangers. Without purpose, you cannot create culture, right? And the company without That's culture is not a company. People can walk away from that company any days, right? Because that doesn't distinguish that company from the rest. I was very fortunate to have worked for Coca-Cola for 12 years. That company has a really, really strong culture, right? When I left Coke, I think while I was with Haba, I had some free time. I would just sit quietly and said, let me reflect on my 12 years with Coke, and how I was asking myself, how this company continue to be relevant, for 100 odd years and still look cool, right? And I think, they have a very strong culture, and that culture is also morphing with time, right? That culture reflects who that brand is today, but also unlock the potential for the future. So, without a clear purpose, you're not going to be able to use anything to anchor your culture. Without a good culture, you're not going to have a good team or a good company.
There's a lot of talk around sustainability at the moment. Now, maybe with our new leader in Washington, sustainability, perhaps in the US, has taken a back seat. Do you think that it will from the US, and then we can come back to Thailand, that from what you've seen, the policy of those organisations you work with, do you think the new leadership has come back again, is that going to change under Trump? Do you think the sustainability, or will the corporates still be moving in that direction?
Right. I'll move this away from geopolitics, but focusing on the corporate side, right?
Yes.
Look, sustainability is a good business, right? But what happened is we seem to be living in a world where, we are shifting from one extreme to another, right? Examples, the U.S. politics, right? And I think this is the time where we need good leaders who are able to balance the two, right? To put, the world or the business in a well balance, And I think if you're looking at sustainability, is, that kind of it, right? It's not only looking at, the good of the communities or the good of the environment, but it's also look at the good of the business as well. It's a concept that how can we bring, people, planet, and profit together, right? So I personally think that it's a good concept, it's a good business. It will continue. Unfortunately, from time to time, you see the swing between, from one extreme to the others. This is why, leaders who are able to come up with a vision that can land, our society in a well-balanced, platform, is much needed.
Thailand's trying to position itself as a hub for renewable energy. And I know you're very passionate about this and you're very involved in it. Is, from a leadership point of view, how does Thailand and is its leaders fulfill this goal, and how do they take the people with them?
Well, Thailand try to be a hub of everything.
True.
Fortunately, unfortunately. But I cannot speak on behalf of our nation leaders. But I think, if we start off making sure that leaders and also the people understand why, things like, renewable energy is critical for the future growth of the nations, I think that would be a good start. Imagine in the world in the future, which no more than 12 months from now, right? Because things are moving so fast. You heard about, Thailand want to attract, data centers, so on and so forth, right? So Thailand is trying to do a lot of things, trying to be data center hub, renewable energy hub, AI hub, semiconductor hub, right? But I think what missing is, a person or a leaders who have comprehensive view of how this fit together, so that Thailand can build a platform that can actually develop these nations, into, the 21st centuries. We did it in the 70s and 80s, right, where we found PTT, so we have energy, and then we have the Eastern Seaboard, so that we can start developing, heavy industries. We did that, 20, 30 years ago, and we have to do it again. But this time, it's not about building airport, road, or ports, or railroad. This time, it's going to be around renewable energies, data centers, AI, semiconductors. Right now, these 5 things are being looked at separately from each other. But if you look at them closely, you know that they are interlinked, right? For your data centers, your data, in order to store your data, you don't put them in drawers, right? You keep those data alive using electricity. So in order to have a good data center, you have to have a good energy source. A better energy source is a renewable energy, but they don't talk about it together, right? And when you have electricity to feed your data, what are you going to do with those data? You're going to go into AI, right? When you're going to do AI, you're going to have to go into investing in semiconductors. But with the AI, how can you make sure that you develop an ethical use of AI or ethical development of AI, right? We don't talk about that enough. So you can see that, if Thailand leaders were to take a comprehensive view of this new digital infrastructures and put it together as one economic development platform. This is the only one time that the development economists in me start talking. Right? I think Thailand will have a lot of potentials. To your point, we situated, in a geographical area that can do a lot of this, given the current, trade dynamics between U.S. and China, how, company are moving out of China and go somewhere else, some land in Vietnam, some land in Thailand. I think this is the time where Thailand can start attracting, right, new technology development here. So, but you need leaders who actually see this stuff comprehensively and able to come up with development platform and policies that actually can bring this thing up, all five of them together at the same time. Otherwise, it'll be broken. You won't be able to have a full potential and to drive, not only technology, right, but also the full economic benefits of having these industries.
If we look at the Asian region, this could be tricky.
There are 10 of them.
The Asian region. And we look at the growth of the Asian region and Thailand and its neighbours. Thailand's had pretty anemic growth over the last 20 years if you compare it to just about every other of the major Asian economies, five Asian economies. Is that a product of the history of Thailand that things perhaps been easier, and some of the others perhaps haven't had the same fortune, I guess? And how do we reverse that?
Yeah. I don't think this is a product of our histories. We have great history that I'm proud of. I think this is a product of the last 2 decades of, misalignment.
Wow.
Right? The world is changing. There's rising powers, diminishing powers, so on and so forth, and that crash just happened to happen naturally, right? You have the new sector of the society that rising in terms of influence, the sector of the society that depleting, right, and then the interest misaligned, so it's created difficult times that last, unfortunately, nearly 20 years. Right? And I think, can we get out of this? I sure hope so, right? But I think it required more than just changing the leaders or winning elections, but it required public participations. I think the Thai people in the past 20 years, from economic perspective, you may think of it as a lost 2 decades, but from the political awakening perspective, I think it served the purpose. Right? I think you're beginning to see higher level public participation on politics, right? So I think when the public are able to insert influence into the political worlds, you beginning to see some changes, and we have seen some changes. It may not be as fast as we thought it would be. There might be some setback that we saw last weekend, right? But the progress is happening nonetheless, right? Whether or not it's going to go faster or slower is really depends. But like I said earlier, this is a string of events that will continue to evolve. But I don't think Thailand is in a position where, we are in dire state or anything. Our economy, manufacturing base is robust. We have all kind of manufacturing capabilities. We have, high quality labors. The thing that you need to be concerned about is, whatever it is that we have good today may not necessarily be good and enough for us to drive growth in the future. So we need to start putting, some more focus and emphasis on how can we build the new growth engine for Thailand, which I alluded to it earlier. There are this digital infrastructure that we have not yet had. We should start building them, but we cannot look at them piece by piece. It should be comprehensive view of how this development should take shape.
And you talked about energy, and obviously, going back with the 80s where you talk with PTT compared to now, the availability of traditional energy sources in Thailand has changed. Well, it's not there. I mean, Thailand's got to find different sources. So renewable has got to be part of that equation, sure. Or alternative energy sources.
Yeah, definitely. I think Thailand will have to do both. I'm sure you have heard of this overlapping claim area between Thailand and Cambodia. We
Yes.
believe that there's a lot of natural gas underneath that. I think that if that overlapping claim area is resolved and we're able to extract, some of those energy will be good. I'm not saying that we should continue to rely on, fossil fuel, but what I'm trying to say is that you can use this energy, investment in this energy, right, to fund your energy transition, because you cannot change from, fossil fuel to renewable energy overnight, right? You need investment, you need finance, right? So if Thailand can unlock this potential that we're having, this overlapping claim area right now, if we can unlock that, we can use that to fund the transition to renewable energy, and I think we'll be fine.
Unfortunately, we're starting to get a bit tight on time, and there's a couple of things I did want to get from you on leadership before you finish.
Okay.
Can you tell me about, is there any particular leader in your history or in your observed that's particularly inspired you, and why?
Many, but I think I would say my father.
Okay.
The first questions, right? I said that my father, who was instilled that value in me, the integrities, right? And my father is a quiet man, right? He has this quiet leadership type, right? So he's being consistent with his values, and then he role model it throughout his life. When I said that, when you have integrities, it will help you make the right decision, and it will help protect you from anything bad that may come and harms you. That I learned from my father, and I learned that from his career. My father is a police general. He was very active during the 1991 Black Monday, Black May, whatever that is.
Yes.
There's a lot of violence on the street. I observed how my father make difficult decisions to stay true to his oath to serve and to protect the people. Our house is on Rajadamnern Avenue.
Okay.
Right? In one fateful morning, when you start hearing gunshots, I have hundreds of people, banging on the front doors, like you could imagine, like zombie movie. Right?
Yes.
And want to come in and seek safety, and I turned to my father and said, what do we do with this? And I said, what do we do? Just bring them in. So hundreds of people came into the house, and then officer came and said, you have to let go of these people. This is our operation. You are intervening with our operation. So my father actually, what is the word for it? That's it. Yep, this is who I am. I'm a policeman. My mission, my promise, to my career, to serve, to protect. You cannot take these people. I won't let you. Right? And then phone calls start coming in. You can name all these big shot names, and I was standing there listening to conversation. And at the end of the day, Dad was able to maintain those hundreds of people and only let them out when he felt that outside is already safe. He was threatening by someone, saying that by Monday come to the headquarters and we will, take a disciplinary action on you. Nothing ever happened.
Oh.
That's why I'm convinced that integrity will protect you at the end. When you make the right decision, you haven't done anything wrong, nobody can wrong you. So my dad was
That's a great story. Very principled. Last question. We're in a period, perhaps as business leaders, we think of the fastest changes and the rate of change as fast as we've ever seen, certainly in our careers. What would be the top 3 lessons that you could give someone for leading through this rapid period of change?
Yep. Don't be afraid of change. It's natural.
It's inevitable.
And invest time in understand the change. Right. The only people who are victim to change are the one who was caught off guard, the one who's not really prepared for change. Right? Everybody, should continue to monitor and prepare for change. and then understand how that change will. Two is understand how that change will affect you positively and negatively. Don't put too much time on how that change will affect you negatively. Focus on positively and try to build that out into number three. How can you actually use the change to springboard your life to the next level. I think all changes, all crises have opportunity. Crisis is practically an opportunity in disguise, right? It really depends on how you look at it, right? So as change, change is always come with huge opportunity. That's why I said, job of the leader is to be able to help society understand by what is the well-balanced society that can enjoy the fast pace of technologies, at the same time making sure that it get translated into positive impact on humanity without worry about change too much, or not worry at all about change, right? You need to strike that balance. I think in the world like this, when changes happen so fast, people either go to the temple to ask the monk, right, or to the government. But I think don't forget the business leaders are the people that the people that society are looking up to provide some kind of sense, understanding of what future will look like. So for any good business leaders, I think that would give them those three.
Come on.
All right.
Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
You've had an amazing life, from corporate life to entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Some great learnings from you, from the people that you're closest to, father, from all the different leaders. It's truly inspirational talking to you. So I'm sure our people will get a tremendous amount from what you've shared with us today.
I hope so. Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for allowing me time to share my boring life story.
No, it was fantastic. Fascinating. Thank you again.
ขอบคุณครับ
For everyone tuning in, thank you for joining us on Confessions of a Leader. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and took away some valuable lessons. We'll be back soon with more conversations with Thailand's top business leaders. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep leading.